Alrighty, here we are on the InfoWars. Syria, over 7,000 Christians and Alawites massacred by new jihad terrorist regime. I'm pretty sure I made a video about this a couple months ago, just after Bashir al-Assad was deposed, and I talked about the jihadist element. So it goes without saying, I'm not surprised. But anyway, let's get into it. Since Al-Qaeda affiliated HTS conquered Damascus with the help of Turkey. Yeah, so Turkey's a baddie. In December of 2024, HTS fighters and Turkish-backed Syrian National Army (SNA) militants have committed massacres against religious minorities in the country, social media posts show. The Patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church of Antioch and all the East, John X, said during a sermon on March 9th, "The bloody events taking place on the Syrian coast left many dead and wounded. In many cities, towns, and villages, their homes were burnt and their properties have been stolen. The targeted areas were places of Alawites and Christians. Many innocent Christian victims were also killed. Residents of some of these places were forced to leave their homes, then they were shot and yeeted, and their homes and property and cars were stolen." Now, if I'm not mistaken, back when Bashir al-Assad was around, a lot of Christians actually supported him because they knew that under his regime they were somewhat protected. And now that he's gone, they're being targeted. Reliable data indicates 7,000 massacres of Christians and Alawites and unprecedented atrocities against civilians. Christian and other communities with a presence in these parts for over 1,000 years are at risk of extinction. The new Islamic regime is leading Syria into an Islamic state. So what? The return of ISIS somewhat? ISIS stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. So just without Iraq? Anyway, back to the article. The Islamic State is claiming that it cannot control the paramilitaries and their affiliated gangs who attack innocent civilians. That sounds like BS to me, but anyway. In an interview with Greek Konter TV, Fran Trossa, probably said that name wrong, said, "The situation in Syria has spiraled out of control. The West is watching the atrocities of the new Syrian regime as if nothing is happening." Well, the West was all for Bashir al-Assad getting ousted because Bashir al-Assad was friendly with Russia. And now that bad things are happening in Syria, they don't want to talk about it because politicians never admit when they were wrong. Actions are needed here and now. The slaughter of hundreds of civilians continues. Approximately 500,000 Christians currently live in Syria. Most are of Greek descent and have inhabited the country for millennia. In the Valley of the Christians, Marwan Shada, chief of the Christian village Masra, was found yeeted with a machete on March 18th. On March 11th, a Christian man, Ellis Michael Assad, was found executed with a shot to the head after being kidnapped 2 days prior in the city of Homs. On March 13th, Johnny Al-Sai, a Greek Christian from the village of Burja Balamana in Tratos, was yeeted. He was riding his motorcycle with his fiancée on the Banyas Road. And sorry if I got any of these names wrong in the pronunciation, I suck at pronouncing names. News regarding the murders of Syrian Christians by Islamists is regularly posted on social media, monitoring the ongoing violence in the country. A Levantine Christian source told Euroconservative.com, "Right now, the Alawites and Christians in Syria are deathly afraid of speaking to the press." Yeah, that's understandable, given the situation. According to the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, for an act of violence to be defined as a geno, it should be committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethical, racial, or religious group. So, yeah, Christians and Al-Wadis are groups of people who are being targeted, so isn't that a geno? And you have a senior STS regime commander filmed himself as he called for the whipping of all Al-Wadis, including children. So yeah, it seems to me in the Middle East, whenever you oust a government, another one pops up, and 80% of the time, it's worse than the one that was previously governing. Take Saddam, for example, or one example. Everybody said he was evil. So what did they do? They ousted him. And then what happened? Iran took power. And why? How was Iran able to take power? Saddam and Iran hated each other. They even fought a few times. There was a war that lasted from 1980 to 88. So you had them fighting each other. But with Saddam out of the way, Iran took power. And what happened? Well, they funded Hamas and the Houthis. And now they're a regional power that wants to get what? Nuclear power. Gee, I wonder why. Here's another example. They said Muammar Gaddafi was evil and that he had to go. And then what happened? Europe began getting flooded with African, quote, migrants. Muammar Gaddafi even warned that without his leadership, Europe could face an influx of millions of, quote, migrants from Africa. In an interview with France 24 in 2011, he stated, "There are millions of black people who could come to the Mediterranean to cross to France and Italy, and Libya plays a role in security in the Mediterranean," suggesting that his regime was a barrier against such migration. Additionally, in a visit to Italy, he warned that Europe runs the risk of turning black unless the EU pays Libya at least 5 billion, 4.1 billion euros a year to block the arrival of illegal invaders from Africa, stating that Europe could otherwise become another Africa due to the influx of migrants. Yeah, little did he know, that's what the European government wants. Why? Corporate needs more workies, and cheap ones at that. And the other benefit of bringing in all these foreign migrants, it breaks apart the homogeneity of the native ethnic Europeans under the guise of diversity. Another word for diversity, division, and another word for division is divide. And there's a saying about dividing, divide and conquer, except they're not conquering, they're controlling. Well, anyway, that's my thoughts on this whole situation. It's kind of sad how I knew this was going to happen before it even happened, but that's the Middle East for you. You off one dictator and something worse takes its place. Well, anyway, take care out there in Clown World.